I'm going to go over a homework problem for the continuous probability distribution. So we have a uniform distribution, and the example I'm going to use is 1 through 53 weeks. But before I do that, let's just imagine we have 4 weeks, and we labeled at the beginning 1 and the end 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yet there's only actually 4 weeks, and maybe a better way to label it would have been 0 through 4, and that might have made a little bit more sense, but that's not how they labeled these weeks. They also labeled where the beginning is 1 and ends at 53, and of course I'm not going to make, there's 52 lines in there, so in other words 53 minus 1 is 52. The length of this time is 52 weeks. So that's kind of how you want to think of this labeling. The length is 52. We'll go from the beginning of 1 and the end of 53. And then we have a couple problems that we're going to do. What's the probability that x is between 5 and 18, x is greater than 30, or x is greater than 17, given x is less than 21? We can just pretend that this is what's the probability. There's an equal probability of getting into a car accident. So what's the probability that the car accident occurs between week 5 and week 18? Well, basically we want to find, it's a rectangle, and we want to find the probability that it's 13 weeks out of the year. It really doesn't matter if it's 5 and 18. It could be any 13 weeks out of the year, any 13 weeks out of 52. So the probability that x is between 5 and 18, or in other words, any 13 weeks out of the year is 13 over 52, which is 1/4, or 0.25. So that's kind of how we would do that. The next one is, what's the probability that x is greater than 30, that it's after the 30th week? So I'll just go ahead and plug in 30 there, then that's the part of the whole of 1 that we want to find. And let's see, I say, well, let's see, this is 23 weeks long, 53 minus 30. And so instead of 13 weeks out of 52, I want to have 23 weeks out of 52. And I just go ahead and plug that into the calculator. 23 divided by 52, and that gives me 0.4423, etc. And if I round that, it rounds to 0.44. Okay, so let me erase all of this so I can clean up my screen a little bit. And the next one we want to do is the probability that x is greater than 17 given x is less than 21. So this is like we go to a fortune teller, and the fortune teller says, I know that this car accident is going to occur in the first 21, or that the first 21 weeks, or actually where x is less than 21, and I believe that's the first 20 weeks. So we want to find, again, given that x is less than 21, so what's the probability that it's after 17? So the cutoff's at 21, and in fact, so that rectangle, that's kind of like my new rectangle there. That's my whole, that's my 1 because it's less than 21. I want to know what's the probability that it's greater than 17. So I'm going to just fill this in a little bit. And by the way, it doesn't matter if it's x is greater than or equal to 17 or greater than 17, because remember, probability it's exactly 17 is 0. So 21 minus 17, that's 4 weeks. So that's 4 weeks out of total of 20 weeks, because it's 21 minus 1, so it's total of 20 weeks. 4 out of 20 gives me 0.2. So that's the probability that x would occur after 17, given that it occurs before 21. Okay, there's a couple more examples I want to do, and which is the 40th, find the 40th percentile, and then one more after this. So the 40th percentile will basically say, okay, what's the cutoff where that cuts the bottom 40% of the data and the top 60% of the data. I know that whole rectangle is a total of 52 weeks. So I want to know like the length, the width of that rectangle, the little rectangle there. So I do 40% of 52, which is 20.8. That's not my answer though, because I start out at 1. So if I know that I start at 1 and I know that the length of that little rectangle right here is 20.8, then I'm going to do 1 plus 20.8, which gives me 21.8. So the 40th percentile is 21.8. Last, I would like to look at the upper quartile. So that's the 75th percentile, and we want to see what number separates the first 75% from the last 25%. So we're going to do this pretty similarly to the 40th, and we want to do 0.75 of 52, or 75% of 52, and that gives me 39. So again, I want to do 1 plus 39, which gives me 40. So the upper quartile is 40 in this case, and the 40th percentile is 21.8.